We're actually bringing in Democratic strategist Quentin R. Giles. And Quentin, my understanding is you're actually from Houston. Would you mind following up on some of the things that you just heard from Julio?
Yeah, if I had the proof, I could. I hadn't heard any of that. I sat here and I continue, to laugh. I would like to also see that evidence, but it seems as though not only just these past 4 days, we've had the president and Republican operatives either spread misinformation, propaganda, and talk in a way that is intended to confuse people and to muck up the waters. What we know is that ballots are being casted legally. Mail-in ballots is a legal thing. We have the president on record telling his supporters to go vote twice, not Democratic operatives. Now, those are the facts. We can run that tape. We don't have to wait for some mysterious evidence to pop out to show us that. And so what is happening right now is the democratic process where mail-in ballots are being counted. I think that if the president had not railed against mail-in ballots, maybe some of his supporters would have voted that way as well, and we'd be in a much different situation. I'd like to also add that these mail-in ballots weren't so much of an issue in Ohio. And we have to understand that every state does things differently.
Sure.
The same day vote in Ohio showed Joe Biden in the lead, where we were talking about, is Joe Biden going to win Ohio? And then after they counted that, they started counting mail-in ballots, which put President Donald Trump over and won Ohio. And nobody is making a fuss about that. So I just like to keep the energy consistent.
Let's also talk about ballot harvesting. Julio brought that up a couple of times. Can you explain to our audience what that is and why it is a legal thing that happens in California?
I don't know what when they're talking about ballot harvesting, I think they are trying to confuse people, and what they're saying is they are taking a bunch of ballots and just holding on to them and marking them and sending them in. This is not the case, and that is not what's happening. There are legal processes in every state, and every state decides how their citizens can cast these ballots. And so it is a play on words, if you will,
Sure.
to, again, muck up the water.
And Quentin, let's move on and talk about the presidential race. Now, looking at how things played out, why do you think the Dems didn't get the landslide victory that was anticipated in some areas?
Yeah. Well, there's some work to still be done on the ground. I do think that there is a victory there that we're not really talking about. We paid a lot of attention to Texas and to Florida, and I think Florida was a great opportunity to flip because Florida typically does that at times. Texas was always a long shot, but also in arm's reach, if that makes sense. But when we're looking at states like Georgia right now, potentially Arizona and Nevada, that is a blue wave that is still coming. We just need to let all the votes be counted, and maybe we'll still see that blue wave just in different states. I don't deny the fact that the Democratic Party has a lot of work to do with a lot of different coalitions in many different states. But I think there's still much of an opportunity for that blue wave narrative to come true.
Quentin, let's take a moment to talk about the lawsuits. Of course, the Trump administration has filed lawsuits in Pennsylvania and Nevada. How do you see those playing out in those states where lawsuits in Michigan and Georgia have already been shot down?
Yeah, I think those will be shut down as well, because the only thing we're talking about is potential voter fraud. And I would just ask to produce the evidence. You don't go out and make claims and then have to find evidence for your claim. That's not how any of this works. It's very reminiscent of the 2017 voter fraud election commission that Trump and his administration established, and they found nothing. And they had to shut it down. And so I think that these lawsuits are going to be kicked out just like the other ones have been.
Let's talk about Georgia. What's your reaction to what's happening there?
Yeah. Shout out to Stacey Abrams. Sometimes things work to your good, even when you take a loss. My reaction is Georgia is a purple state, and Stacey Abrams all but told us so. We know what happened in her gubernatorial race, and we know the work that she has put in on the ground and other activists in Georgia to turn the state blue. We also have to understand that there is a growing population. There's an entertainment industry that has moved to Georgia and is growing every day. And so it is not the same Southern Georgia that we are used to. And so I'm very encouraged and very excited that the state potentially is going to flip blue. Even if it doesn't, the fact that we're talking about it, the fact that it is this close says something.
And when it comes to the Senate, speaking of Georgia, 5 seats are still uncalled, 2 in Georgia that will be likely, both of them going off into a runoff in January. What is the Democratic strategy there?
Yeah, this is Sparta. That is the strategy. All eyes are going to be on Georgia because what we know is in our system of checks and balances, you need the House and the Senate to come together to make these laws, right? For the president to sign off on. What we've seen is these deep partisan divides that is making it hard to legislate. So if Joe Biden wins the presidency, which it looks like he's on track to do, not calling anything, just looking at the numbers, he's going to need a Democratic Senate. And so that means if this falls to Georgia, the amount of attention, time, and money that is about to be spent in Georgia is about to be unreal. Georgians probably thought they were getting their television sets back and getting commercials about Christmas and holiday times. No, 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 no. It will be political ads galore.
Georgia on our minds, at least possibly through January. I am curious, Quentin, before I let you go, what did you think about the president's statement yesterday?
You know, I'd like to say that I was surprised, but I'm not really surprised anymore. I think it's dangerous. I was very disheartened by that, simply because his words carry water. And although I did not vote for Trump, I would never vote for Trump. I understand that he is still the president. And I think that him being in a leadership position and coming out and making these wildly outrageous false claims is dangerous because there are people that literally live on every word that he says. And so it is incumbent upon people in leadership to understand their power and understand that their words carry weight. And so I think at best, it was wildly irresponsible.
Quentin, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on NBC LX.